with the hope of saving the institution of marriage in the lives of Muslims. And I believe that if we take the information with the same seriousness as he who has prepared it for you, I am hopeful that our relationships, mine, yours, those marriages that are going to be, those marriages that are struggling, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can and will mend them. And this is the promise of Allah Almighty for those who resort to His book seeking guidance. And after all, this is a Quran-based approach. Let us take a look therefore at principle number 1. Principle number 1, I have put it here at the very top, claiming that it is perhaps one of the most important of principles pertaining to the institution of marriage, and everything else after it is a branch, is a fara', is a subsidiary. This is part of the ayah where Allah Almighty said, and have taken from you a firm covenant, a strong agreement. The ayah from Surah An-Nisa, ayah 21. See, this particular principle that we're now elaborating upon, it's not so much in reference to something you have to physically do. It's more so about a perception, an inner appreciation of marriage that should change. That's not something you shift, you move, you carry, you buy, you sell. This is a discussion now between you and yourself, nobody else. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe the institution of marriage? With huge terms. I have taken from you, Allah said, a firm agreement, a strong covenant. There isn't any agreement in life that you are probably more legally connected to and has more of a consequence upon your life than marriage, probably coming second place only to death. The sheer amount of ramifications involved in terms of rights and obligations and ownership and inheritance and hormones and children and the rest of it, they're all connected to this institution of marriage, and therefore Allah Almighty makes it clear to us that this is a serious agreement. However, I'm sure you will agree that we live in a society that is very dismissive towards the institution of marriage. We live in a world that is highly antagonistic to marriage. Wherever you look, you feel that you're outvoted. You feel that you're outnumbered. There are far fewer institutions building the sanctity of marriage in the hearts of people in comparison to the thousands or millions out there in the form of social media and stand-up comedy and its likes that is deconstructing the importance of marriage in the hearts of people, and that has an effect. Why is it therefore that we don't see it, at least a lot of us, the importance of this institution, and therefore the word of talaq, divorce, is always on the tip of our tongues? It's a pressure card that he's always threatening his wife with. And it's a request that she may be always making from him. Divorce me. Any situation they have, divorce me, she says. I will divorce you, he says. That is a manifestation, a reflection of a person or a couple who are looking down on the institution of marriage, not through the lens that Allah Almighty has given it. So the question here is why? What has changed? Why is it that we don't see it, i.e. marriage, like maybe our fathers and our grandparents and our predecessors used to see it? What has changed? I suggest or posit that there are several things that have changed. The first thing is the element of education and tarbiyah, nurturing. You may go to somebody in a rural village somewhere in a more of a traditional setting, and that person may not know the difference between A and B. That person may not be able to count from 1 to 10. But from a very young age, that person has been nurtured by their fathers, by their mothers, by their society, that one day you're going to be married, my son, my daughter. One day you're going to be a dad, one day you're going to be a mom, one day you're going to be the head of a household, oh my son, and so on and so forth. So from a very young age, it's being drummed into his head that you are a responsible person, so that when marriage finally arrives, it has a holiness to it, it has a sanctity to it, although this person may have no Quran and no Hadith. So this is one reason. It could be that education is lacking today, i.e. around the importance of marriage. It could be that Tarbiyah, we're raising our children wrong with respect to marriage. We're not preparing them for it. This could be a factor why we're so laissez-faire, dismissive, belittling, and careless with regards to the institution of marriage. Another reason, brothers and sisters, I think this is key, past experiences from haram relationships. You may have a person who only ever knew a boyfriend-girlfriend type relationship, and he was in all sorts. And then she decides that this is haram, we need to change this, we want to make it into a marriage. And so they decide to seal the knot and get married. But little do they realize that there are still remnants from the past. The fact that he was constantly moving from relationship to relationship, and it wasn't bothering him, and he always knew that I'm not bound to it. I can leave whenever I want. Sometimes we import this mentality into marriage. So the same relaxed approach that we may have had in the past towards these haram relationships, we bring it into marriage and we don't suddenly give it the seriousness it deserves. Did you understand this point? Is it clear? So to summarize this point, sometimes people, they still have remnants from the past, they bring it into marriage, and therefore they keep marriage on a level playing field with every other haram relationship. Easy come, easy go, I can come in and I can leave whenever I want. And that's one of the prices that people pay if they have had this type of haram relationships in the past, and the longer the worse it is, but it can be changed. This is a second reason why at times we look down on the importance of marriage. We don't give it the seriousness that Allah is describing in this principle that you just heard. A third reason, it could be due to movements, isms in society. Wherever you look, you find people mocking the institution of marriage or actively speaking out against it, suggesting that perhaps it should be cancelled altogether and replaced with something else. And this is represented perhaps more so by the feminist movement. You have the likes of Sheila Cronin. Sheila Cronin, a feminist, she actually says that the only way that a female can be freed and find her true ownership of herself is when the institution of marriage is abolished. A'udhu billah. You have the likes of Marlene Dixon, who says that the institution of marriage is the chief vehicle that is responsible for the perpetration of the oppression of women. And Simone de Beauvoir, in her book The Second Sex, she says that the institution of marriage is a very alienating one. So wherever you look, you find people speaking against it. And by the way, it's difficult to entirely blame them. A lot of these statements that you just heard, they are reactions to very terrible experiences that people have witnessed in the name of marriage. There have been historical injustices, social injustices, legal injustices with respect to weddings and dowries and waiting times to get divorced even. So people give up on it. They say, what's the point? There was actually an article in the Law Society Gazette in 2019, in June, saying that the separated couples who are now waiting for a divorce, they have to wait for an average of 59 weeks to get their divorce. So from a non-religious perspective, you think to yourself, what's the point? Why? Why do I need to get married? So a lot of what you are hearing is a reaction to things that shouldn't represent what marriage is about. So these are three reasons why some of us have a dismissive perception of marriage, because we're being bombarded with this type of statements. Another reason, and this is number 4, is satire, mockery of marriage. Even if it is coming as a joke and something light-hearted, and we will speak about this in a few moments, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now I would like to show you, dear brothers and sisters, those covenants in the book of Allah Almighty, those agreements that Allah has described as firm, as ghalidh, as serious and weighty. How many are they? They're only mentioned 3 times in the Quran. Can you imagine? The first of those agreements that Allah Almighty described as being ghalidh, firm, is with respect to the agreement that Prophet Musa took from Bani Israel, the children of Israel, where he said to them, as Allah Almighty said, we said to them, don't transgress in the Sabbath, وَأَخَذْنَا مِنْهُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا, and we took from them a firm covenant. That is the first time it appears in the Quran. Where is the second time it appears in the Quran, this description of a firm covenant? Is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, remember when we took from the prophets their agreement, an agreement from them. From you, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, from Noah, wa Ibrahim, wa Musa, wa Isa ibn Maryam, and Abraham, and Musa, and Jesus, son of Mary. And how is the ayah concluded? He took from them a firm covenant. Where is the third time it appears in the Quran? It is in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, where Allah Almighty describes marriage by saying, how can you take back the dowry from your women, whilst one of you has gone into the other, taken from you a firm covenant? So the third context in which it appears is in the institution of marriage. Allahu Akbar. I want to give you some examples, dear brothers and sisters, how the Sharia has shown you and I that this relationship of marriage is like none other. Wallahi, if we were to apply this principle and appreciate it, I believe it will transform our relationships, because you see this person in front of you, husband or wife, as one of your gateways to Allah's pleasure or His wrath. Look at how He speaks about women alayhi salatu wassalam as wives, and how He speaks about men as husbands. He said about the women, as Imam al-Tirmidhi narrates, Imam al-Nasa'i on the authority of Abi Shuraih, he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, "O Allah," Prophet Muhammad said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "O Allah, I deem it highly sinful when the rights of the 2 weak ones are overlooked, the orphan and the woman." Listen to that again. Oh Allah, He said, I deem it highly sinful when the rights of the 2 weak ones are violated. Who are the 2 weak ones according to him, alayhi salatu wasalam? The orphan and the woman. And then look at what He said about men. It's the same level of importance when they are husbands. What did He say, alayhi salatu wasalam? The wife of Al-Husayn ibn Mihsan, the auntie of Al-Husayn ibn Mihsan. The auntie of Al-Husayn ibn Mihsan came to the Prophet ﷺ with a request. She needed assistance with something, and so he helped her. And then he wanted to give her some advice. He said to her, "Are you a married woman?" She said, "I am." And then he said to her, how do you behave in his presence? She said, "I try to not prevent him from anything he requires, except those matters that I really struggle with." And then he said to her, "Be very careful and observant how you are with him, because indeed he is your paradise or your hell." La ilaha illallah. He is your paradise or your hell. So when you are a woman as a wife, the Prophet ﷺ said, it is very sinful for you to have your rights violated. And when you are a husband, you are the paradise or the hell. Allahu Akbar. So how can we see this relationship, marriage, as any other relationship? And this, dear brothers and sisters, therefore, is part of the problem when we come into any agreement in life. Be it a mobile phone contract with Vodafone, or a hire purchase deal, or anything like that. You know the ins and outs of the contract, so you're not caught by surprise. But then when you sit with a lot of couples who are disputing and you hear what they have to say, you realize that part of their problem is that when they came into this marriage, they had no idea what was the requirements of marriage.
Assalamu alaikum brothers and sisters. Hope this video was helpful for you. This may help others too, so please consider sharing, and we will bring more videos in the future inshallah. So consider subscribing and you won't miss any. Jazakallahu khairan.